Hey there guys, Coach Shane here, part 2 of our squat series. In part 1, we talked about the proper setup and technique in our squat. Part 2, we're going to dive into some common faults that we see, 4 faults that we want to talk about today. And then in part 3, we're going to give some fixes to those faults so we can correct those and be more efficient and move better with our squat. So the first thing we often see, or one of the things we often see with our squat, is that lean forward or losing control forward. So as we're squatting, I come here and it's usually because I'm leaning forward, and that might be some mobility issues that I have. So as we squat down, I might squat, and then as I drive up, I feel my chest coming forward, my hips leading the way. We want to make sure that our hips and chest are moving at the same time. Another thing we see often is the heels coming off the ground. So if you're a squatter and as you're squatting, you feel your heels coming off the ground, usually my knees are driving forward. There could be two things. We could have a too narrow of a stance, so we need to widen that stance out a little bit, as long as we're keeping our knees out over our toes, or it could be a flexibility issue. So if you feel yourself coming onto your toes, we need to drive into the ground, keeping our feet flat, keeping our big toe pressing into the ground and our heel. We want a nice flat foot throughout our squat. The other thing that we'll see is those knees caving in. I talked about that a little bit. So as I squat here, maybe I have a wide stance, and as I come here, I drive those knees in on the way out. That's really tough on the knees. That's not a position we want to be in. So we talk about coming out here, having that paper towel, tearing it apart, and rotating those knees out so they stay out over the toes. The third fault we often see, and the final one, is we talk about it as a butt wink. And what that is that loss of that lumbar curve. So as I squat down here, I'm in good position, good position, good position. I get to the bottom of my squat, and I feel my butt, my curve in my back, wink underneath here. I want to be in a good curved position. So I don't want to squat to a point that I get below that. So we want to make sure that we stay engaged and not squat below that. Oftentimes, it's a loss of muscle control. We're turning all those muscles off, and it could be a flexibility issue. So the things that we see often: chest coming forward, leaning, my hips rising beforehand, where I want to keep my chest and hips moving together. My heels coming off the ground. Again, that might be a stance issue, and it could be a weight distribution issue in my foot or some flexibility that we need to address. Knees caving in could be a strength issue, or just being aware of the technique of rolling my knees out. And finally, loss of that lumbar curve where I'm squatting at the bottom and getting that butt wink, and my butt is winking underneath there. It's really dangerous as we get load here because it's not good for our spine. Part 3 of this, watch for that. We will go through some of the fixes for those 4 faults that we talked about.